Okay, so get this.
Hmm.
Today we're diving into something
Okay.
pretty wild.
Yeah.
King Alfred the Great
Oh, wow.
in fan fiction.
Fan fiction. Okay.
You're probably thinking,
Got
what?
intrigued.
Yeah, stick with us because it's fascinating how people are using these stories to kind of like
Oh, yeah.
rethink the past
Absolutely.
and even reshape it.
It's not just like what's in the history books anymore.
Exactly. And our guide for this deep dive is Martine Mussies.
Okay.
She's an artistic researcher,
Interesting.
dustic academic from Utrecht,
Utrecht.
Netherlands.
Oh, cool.
She's really into how
Yeah.
King Alfred is portrayed these days,
Mhm.
especially in fan fiction.
I see.
And I think her background is really interesting
Yeah.
because she brings together
Right.
research and fan culture.
So she can see like connections that other people maybe wouldn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you might be wondering,
I am actually.
why King Alfred?
Yeah.
Well, he's been considered this like ideal king figure for centuries.
Right. The classic good king.
Yeah. Fighting Vikings,
Yeah.
promoting education,
Right.
all that good stuff.
Yeah, and he's been used as this symbol
Mhm.
for different agendas throughout history.
Right.
Historians even have a term for it,
Really. Alfredism.
Alfredism.
Mhm.
Okay, so for those who aren't familiar,
Yeah.
fan fiction is basically stories written by fans
Mm-hmm.
using existing characters and settings
Okay.
from books,
Yeah.
movies, shows, you name it.
All right.
It's all about expanding on the canon.
Right. Taking what's there and running with it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And with King Alfred fan fiction, you see this huge range of
Yeah.
interpretations.
Okay.
Some try to stick to the facts.
Yeah.
Others bring in time travel.
Okay.
Vikings,
Vikings. All right.
even
What else?
even BDSM.
BGSM.
Yeah.
You heard that right.
Wow. Okay.
Martine's research has found this incredible diversity in how fans portray Alfred.
So it's not just history. They're mixing in
Yeah.
like their own fantasies, pop culture.
So it's like King Alfred is a blank canvas
Exactly.
for them to project onto.
Yeah. And by studying these fan-created narratives,
Mhm.
we can learn a lot, not just about how people see King Alfred, but
Right.
also about our own values and beliefs and worries.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough theory. Let's get to the good stuff.
All right.
Martine shared some wild examples of King Alfred fan fiction.
I'm ready.
And remember, these are real stories
Okay.
written by real people,
Got it.
and they show us how fan fiction can be this powerful tool to explore identity,
Right.
challenge norms,
Yeah.
and even like rewrite history.
Wow.
So first up, we have a story that
What?
takes Alfred's reputation for piety
Mm-hmm.
and flips it on its head.
Oh, really?
It pairs him up with
Okay.
Bergirtha,
Oh,
the fierce shield maiden from Vikings.
Vikings.
Yeah. And it's not just a simple romance.
You okay?
The author adds in elements of BDSM,
BDSM.
specifically flogging.
Wow. That's...
Pretty shocking reimagining of Alfred.
It is.
But if you look closer,
Yeah.
there's a lot of cleverness there.
Oh.
And this is where you see Martine's expertise.
Yeah.
She points out that the author uses quotes,
Mm-hmm.
not just from historical sources about Alfred,
Okay.
but also from video games,
Oh, wow.
creating this layered, playful,
Interesting.
and kind of provocative interpretation.
Yeah, it's like this blend of history and
Yeah.
fantasy and personal desire. They're taking these totally different things
Yeah.
and putting them together to make something new.
It's like they're saying, forget what you thought you knew about King Alfred.
Mm-hmm.
This is my version.
And that's what's so cool about fan fiction.
Yeah.
It gives a voice to people who maybe don't feel represented
Yeah.
in traditional history.
Right.
They can reclaim the past and make it fit their own worldview.
Okay, let's move on to a story that explores
Uh-huh.
Alfred's love of language and education.
Okay.
In this one,
Mm-hmm.
he's teaching a young woman named Bado
Dado.
about Ogam,
Oh,
an ancient Irish script.
Interesting.
And what's interesting is this scene is fictional,
Okay.
but it reflects a real part of Alfred's personality,
Yeah.
his intellectual curiosity and passion for literacy.
It's cool how they
Yeah.
weave that in.
Right.
Mm.
But this fan fiction adds a modern twist.
Oh, how so?
It highlights the importance of cross-cultural exchange.
Right, bringing different backgrounds together.
Yeah, it's like the author's using this story to celebrate diversity
Mm,
and the power of language to connect people.
I like that.
Yeah.
And there's this element of nostalgia, too.
Yeah.
It takes place in a library,
Oh,
a place that's all about
right.
learning and the past.
Yeah.
Maybe the author's trying to evoke a longing for a simpler time. A
Interesting.
time of exploration and discovery.
And maybe even a longing for that
Yeah.
wise mentor figure like
Right.
King Alfred.
Someone to guide us.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder
Yeah.
how different readers might connect with it.
Mm.
Some might feel that intellectual curiosity,
Right.
while others might feel a deeper need for connection.
Okay, are you ready for another twist?
Oh, yeah? Give it to me.
This next example takes us into
Okay.
the world of romance
All right.
and butterflies.
Butterflies.
Lots and lots of butterflies.
Okay.
Seriously.
Interesting.
In this story, butterflies symbolize transformation and beauty.
Oh, okay.
The author even describes King Alfred's eyelashes
Oh.
as fluttering like butterfly wings.
That's pretty vivid.
Yeah.
But there's also this deeper layer.
Really?
Martine points out that the butterflies could be a reference to Madame Butterfly, the
Oh,
opera.
wait.
So there's this potential undercurrent of
Right.
cultural appropriation. Exploitation.
Which raises some interesting questions.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even in fan fiction,
Right.
where imagination runs wild,
Right.
we can't escape the real world.
It's true.
But that's also what makes these stories so compelling.
Yeah.
They make us confront uncomfortable truths
Mm-hmm.
and examine our own assumptions about history and representation.
It's like fan fiction forces us to think about
Yeah.
the messy, complicated nature of history and human experience.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it so interesting.
I completely agree. It's crazy how these seemingly simple stories
Right.
can lead to such deep conversations.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to Martine Mussie's
Right.
and her perspective as autistic researcher.
Yeah, it's interesting how she uses her
Mhm.
own experiences to understand this
Yeah.
whole world of fan-created content.
She calls her approach audioethnography.
Audioethnography.
It sounds kind of complicated, but
Oh,
it's
heck.
actually pretty straightforward. She basically uses her personal experiences as a fan to understand how other people connect with these stories.
So it's not just analyzing from the outside.
Right.
It's about being a part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's interested in how fan fiction
Yeah.
can be a space for neurodiverse people to explore their identities
Yeah.
and connect with others.
It's like fan fiction is this secret language
Yeah.
that allows people to communicate
Yeah.
ideas and emotions that are hard to put into words.
And because fan fiction is often collaborative,
Mhm.
with fans building on each other's work,
Right.
it creates a sense of community.
Yeah, like this big online brainstorming session.
Exactly.
Where everyone can share their ideas.
What Martine's showing us is
Yeah.
these fan-created narratives, even though some people dismiss them as unimportant,
Right.
can actually tell us a lot about our world.
They reflect our hopes,
Yeah.
fears,
Absolutely.
desires, even the parts of ourselves we don't fully understand.
Right. And in the case of King Alfred fan fiction,
Yeah.
they show this interplay between history, imagination, and identity.
It's like they're using this figure from the past to reflect on their own lives.
I like that.
Remember that story where King Alfred was
Yeah.
teaching that young woman Ogham?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that story also features a ring.
Oh, the ring.
Yeah. A classic symbol of
Yeah.
power, love, destiny.
Right. And in this case, it's a direct reference to Tolkien,
Tolkien.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh, really?
The author describes it as
Okay.
a plain, broad, silver ring inscribed with the words, I am ring.
That's a pretty obvious nod to the One Ring.
Totally. But the cool thing is,
Yeah.
the author also links this fictional ring
Okay.
to real Anglo-Saxon finger rings.
Oh, wow. So they're
Yeah.
like blending fantasy and reality.
Exactly, creating this richer meaning.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that the author has King Alfred wear the ring on a chain
Okay.
around his neck.
Instead of on his finger. Martine suggests this might be a way to set it apart
Yeah.
from a regular finger ring.
Right. It's like saying this isn't just any ring.
Yeah.
It's something special.
Yeah.
And by connecting it to the one ring,
Right.
it gives it this sense of destiny.
Okay. For our last example,
All right, hit me.
we're going into time travel.
Time travel.
Yeah. In this story,
Mm-hmm.
a woman named Claire,
Claire.
a nurse,
Nurse, okay.
is transported back in time
Right.
to King Alfred's Wessex.
Interesting.
And you guessed it,
What?
she ends up saving his life.
Well, of course she does. The
I-
classic healing heroine.
Yeah.
You see that a lot.
But here's where it gets really meta.
Okay.
Claire is actually from
From where?
Outlander,
Outlander. Oh, wow.
the book and TV series.
Okay.
So we've got this layering of fiction.
Right.
The author takes a character from one world and puts her into another.
It's like a crossover episode.
Exactly.
Blending history and romance and medical drama.
The ultimate fan fiction mashup.
Yeah.
And in this story,
Okay.
Claire uses her modern medical knowledge to treat Alfred's illness,
Oh, okay.
which is described as
Yeah.
really mysterious and debilitating.
Martine points out that this fan fiction was written
Okay.
during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Oh, wow. So maybe that influenced the focus on illness and healing.
Right. It's like they're taking real-world anxieties and channeling them into fiction.
And by having Claire save Alfred, the author kind of flips the script on gender roles. It's not the warrior king saving the damsel.
Right.
It's the skilled and compassionate woman
I like that.
using her knowledge to heal and protect.
This connects to a larger trend,
What's that?
empowering female characters in King Alfred fan fiction.
Oh, interesting.
It's like fans are intentionally rewriting history to make it more balanced and inclusive.
Giving women agency.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is really important when you think about how women were often marginalized in traditional historical accounts.
Fan fiction gives them a voice.
Yeah, a platform to share their own perspectives.
Exactly.
So after all this, you might be thinking, why should we care about these stories about a king who lived over 1,000 years ago?
It's fascinating because these stories aren't just about the past.
Right.
They're about how we, in the present, engage with history.
Okay.
How we reinterpret it and even reshape it.
To fit our own needs.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like we're always in conversation with the past.
Right.
And fan fiction is just one way to express that.
And Martine's research shows that this conversation is happening all over the world.
Oh, really?
She's found King Alfred fan fiction in all kinds of languages.
Wow.
Chinese, Italian, German, you name it.
King Alfred's like an international star.
It really shows you the power of stories and how certain figures from history can capture people's imaginations, no matter the language or culture.
And fan fiction can break down barriers, too.
Absolutely.
Connecting people through this shared love.
It goes beyond borders.
Yeah, it really does.
And what's even cooler is these international fan fictions often bring in elements of their own cultures.
Oh, wow.
Creating these unique hybrid stories.
So it's not just translating.
Right.
It's using King Alfred to explore different perspectives.
Martine gives this example of a Chinese fan fiction where King Alfred travels to China and meets a warrior princess.
Interesting.
The author mixes Anglo-Saxon and Chinese culture.
That's so cool.
Creating this fusion of East meets West.
They've taken this very English figure and put him in a totally different context.
And it challenges our ideas about history identity, even what it means to be English.
It reminds us that history is always being rewritten, reinterpreted.
Through the lens of the present. And fan fiction is playing a big part in that. It gives a voice to those who might have been left out of the traditional stories.
It's like democratizing history.
Right.
Letting fans shape our collective memory.
So basically, Martine Mussie's work shows us that fan fiction is more than just a hobby.
Right.
It's a powerful way to express yourself culturally.
It's a space for fans to explore who they are. Challenge norms.
Absolutely.
Even rewrite history.
It's global. It breaks down barriers and connects people worldwide.
And it reminds us that the past isn't really gone.
Right.
It's still shaping us today.
It's always with us.
So we'll leave you with this.
Okay.
What figures from the past would you want to see reimagined in fan fiction?
Interesting.
What stories would you tell?
Yeah, what would you change?
How would those stories challenge our understanding of history and ourselves?
That's something to think about.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was fun.